Here's something nobody in this industry wants to admit. Most operators, even experienced ones, cannot consistently hit millimeter perfect finish grade manually. And it's not because they are bad operators, it's because the task itself is physically impossible to do at that precision without the right technology. And today I want to break down exactly why that is and what actually fixes it. Because once you understand what's really happening underneath you when you are trying to hold grade, the whole game changes. Let's start with what manual fine grading actually asks you to do at the same time. You are managing blade pitch, you are managing cross slope, you are steering, you are monitoring your speed, you are watching the terrain ahead while also reading the surface behind you to see if the last pass held. And every single one of those inputs affects the others. Touch the steering and you've changed the effective angle of your mode board. Adjust your speed and you've changed how the hydraulics respond. Correct the pitch on one end of the blade and the other end just moved. The human brain handles sequential tasks really well. It handles 4 or 5 interdependent variables running simultaneously not so well. There's actually research on this. Cognitive load theory shows that working memory saturates fast when you are tracking more than 3 or 4 things that are all connected to each other. Fine grading involves 7 or more every time. So you are already operating past what the brain is built for before you even factor in fatigue, vibration, and carb noise wearing you down over a shift. And then there's hydraulic lag. This one doesn't get talked about enough. There is always a delay between when you move a lever and when the blade actually responds. We are talking fractions of a second to close to a full second depending on load conditions. Doesn't sound like much until you realize that at 3 miles an hour, your machine is covering roughly 5 feet every second. So the correction that was needed at the stake gets applied 5 feet past the stake. You see it, you overcorrect. Now the blade's gone too far the other way. You correct again, and you've just started a cycle that compounds with every pass. That's not operator error, that's physics. And it doesn't matter how many hours you've got in the seat. You cannot outrun hydraulic lag with manual inputs at finish grade tolerances. Now here's the part that really gets overlooked. Even if you could perfectly manage the cognitive load and the lag, the blade itself is not staying still. Ground pressure is never uniform across the full length of a mode board. You hit softer material on one side, harder pack on the other, a buried rock, a moisture change. The reaction force pushing back against the blade shifts constantly, and those shifts translate into tiny movements of the mode board that you cannot feel through the controls and cannot see with your eyes in real time. The blade is drifting below your perception threshold the entire time you are making a pass. And on top of that, maintaining a consistent percentage slope across changing terrain is not a linear calculation. The correct heel to toe relationship has to update continuously as the ground rises and falls underneath you. It's a function of your current pitch angle, your cross slope, the effective length of the mode board, and the rate of terrain change, all moving simultaneously. To do that calculation manually in real time while also managing everything else to tolerances tighter than 1/10 of a foot, that's not a skill gap. That's a math problem no human can solve on the fly. So how does cross-slope technology actually fix this? The core idea is deceptively simple. Instead of asking the operator to manage both ends of the blade at the same time, the system takes one end and locks it to a fixed parameter automatically. The operator manages the lead edge. The system handles the other side. That sounds small. It is not small. You've just cut the manual input requirement in half, and the half the system is now managing. It's managing with inertial sensors that are reading the actual cross-slope angle of the mode board hundreds of times per second. Not twice a second, not 10 times a second, hundreds. When ground pressure drifts the blade even a fraction of a degree off target, the system has already detected it and sent a hydraulic correction before your eyes have processed that anything changed. What you get is a blade that holds its geometry instead of drifting away from it. The operator's inputs become fewer, cleaner, and more effective because you are not constantly chasing a moving target. You are steering a machine that's already doing the hard part. The downstream effects of this are significant, and they go way beyond just a smoother surface. Pass count drops dramatically. Where manual finish grading might take 8 to 12 passes over a section to hit tolerance, cross-slope automation consistently gets you there in 2 to 4. You do the fuel math on that across a full work week on a large site, and you are talking hundreds of gallons. Machine wears skills with hours, so you are also extending the service life of your blade segments, your circle drive, your hydraulic hydraulic seals, all of it. Then there's material. Overcutting in manual grading is constant. You take a low spot down too far, chasing a high spot that was itself created by an overcorrection 2 passes ago. On jaws with imported aggregate or engineered fill, every inch of overcut is material cost you can't get back. Automation holds the cutting depth to the target. The overcut cycle stops. And your ground crew, the grade checkers walking behind the machine flagging spots for the next pass, their workload gets cut in half because they are confirming a surface instead of diagnosing one. Here's what I want you to take away from this. The gap between manual grading and sensor integrated grading in 2026 is not a small gap. It is not going to close through more practice or more seat time. The physics that make manual fine grading imprecise are not going away. The cognitive overload is not going away. The hydraulic lag is not going away. What cross-slope technology does is remove the parts of the problem that were never supposed to be solved by a human in the first place. The math, the microsecond corrections, the real-time geometry. That's the machine's job now. What's left for the operator is higher order, reading terrain, making judgment calls, understanding the system well enough to push it and know when to step in. The operators who figure that out are the ones still getting called back. The ones still treating this like it's 2005 are losing bids to machines that are just better at the math than they are. That's the reality, and now you know why.